Think we're live. If someone in the chat can verify you guys can hear me and see me fine, that'd be great. Hope everyone's doing well today. Been a while since I chatted with you guys, so I figured I'd hop on while I had a little bit of time to kill before the Rangers Florida game tonight. Gonna give that a watch. Should be pretty good. And yeah, answer any questions you guys have for a little bit and chill. Hey, oh yeah, Alex, I saw you message me on Instagram. No, for sure. This will be available for you guys to watch after the fact too. We'll only go for about an hour. I don't have that much time, but do a little bit of live hangout. Hey, Justin, I'll be working live stream starts, but I have a question. Thoughts on James' use of the twin? Do you think it's vintage stock or vintage that's been modded? Thanks, bro. Also, album. I don't know what's going on with the twin. I don't think really anyone knows if it's been modded, if it's stock, whatever is going on with it. I don't know at the moment. Could just be a nice vintage twin, just a bit higher powered thing than the vibroverb that John's kind of going for, kind of that blackface kind of Fender style, just a little bit more power. But the amps at the Sphere don't have any sound coming out of them on the stage. So it's running through an external cabinet regardless, maybe under the stage or however the Sphere works. But it's not actually being mic'd or anything. Those cabs are all dead silent on stage. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that. But it'll be interesting. It will be interesting to see if we learn any more. There's been barely any photos, no pedal board shots, nothing. But at the same time, it's not like it's a mainline tour of John's. It's Dead and Company. It's, you know, we've seen this kind of thing over and over again. It's not much is changing. So it's not like I haven't been that like insanely like searching for good shots or anything. Captain? Joe Silver Skies have the same frets as the ones off the rack. They're awfully small frets, especially converted fenders. I assume so. I assume we keep whatever specs John's using or like get trickled down to us. Like if John's currently using some sort of spec on his mainline Silver Skies, maybe next year it would change and we get them actually done on the production models. I assume something like that. But it's all just his preference, I assume. It's whatever he kind of thinks is best on them, then that's probably what we're getting. In terms of everything. It's about whatever we want, really. I have an hour to chill, hour to hang out with you guys. So anyone in the chat wants to ask questions, chat about gear or anything, we can hang out, talk. Yeah, that's about it. Make sure the audio and everything working. Oh, come on. But yeah, if any of you guys ever do find a shot of the gear from the Sphere, like good shots, let me know. That'd be really awesome to see. Actually, like, get a look at what he's using, but I haven't been, that crazy going on that. I guess Alex had a question too about new album. I think Joe's probably going to be releasing something summer, fall. There's been talk about him being in the studio, writing things, you know, making music. So maybe we'll see something in terms of a new album coming out. I'm hopeful because it's been quite a while since Sob Rock came out, and he's written songs that we've heard on the solo tour. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a new album soon. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a single that's going to be announced kind of soonish, maybe. We'll see. Or teased that something's coming out. Even just like some of the songs like In the Neighborhood from the solo tour, I feel like we'll get. Fave Dumble. It's hard to say because I don't hear them in isolation. So it's hard to say what sounds the best. I actually really like the overdrive reverb that John used during the trio era that Jesse's Guitar Lounge used to own. He said that was arguably the best one too, out of all the Dumbles he's owned. He had told me that was arguably one of the better ones, one of his favorite ones too. I'm pretty sure when him and I are talking about it. So I think a lot of my favorite tones are from when the ODR was in the mix. So I'd say probably the ODR, which would be really cool. No one really makes there's a couple clones, but Dumbles are so like particular where it's like if you don't get a clone of like the exact Dumble overdrive reverb that John used, is it even that like similar at that point? Are you really like getting it? So maybe one day I'll get a clone of one, but that's kind of my favorite Dumble kind of sound. Think we'll see more JM signature gear, different guitars, amps, pedals. I don't know. It's interesting. I think John's very careful with what he puts his name on and what he ties his name to. The JMod was a really interesting thing, definitely a bit of a flop. Um, Maybe I'd say eventually. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like another version of the Silver Sky at some point down the road. Um, or like a signature version like Honey if they started producing exactly that guitar. You never know. I wouldn't be surprised. Pedals has been something that I always thought would be a really easy transition for John to put his name on. Like something like even a Keeley modded blues driver kind of thing with Keeley or a signature version like Katana, but I just don't think John has an interest in that. So if he hasn't done any signature gear in terms of pedals, I don't really think he would. The box it later is probably our only chance of us ever getting a signature mirror pedal. So if Josh actually makes it, regardless of whether or not it's got John's name on it or not, it still would theoretically be a signature pedal. Like I got the what's it called, Electric Lightning from Thorpe and Chris Buck. Chris Buck's name isn't on it, but you know they collaborated on the pedal and he helped design it and everything. So it's kind of would be similar to that, not like screaming John Mayer's name, but you'd know the history behind it and what it is. Instagram sucks. I love that username. I'd love to watch a video about the carbon copy. Carbon copy is difficult because there's not that much in terms of how John's used it to isolate it, but I can maybe put something together and kind of take everything we've seen and how he's used it. Because on paper, it's a better pedal than the Aquapus, actually. But he likes what he likes. What's the strat he's been using with the Dead? So apparently the rumor is, and I haven't personally heard any concrete information on this, it's one of Jeff Beck's actual guitars that John's been given to use. Who knows for how long? I don't think he owns it, but the exact rumor, kind of what's been thrown out there, is that that's actually one of Jeff Beck's strats, which is really cool. So it's kind of same specs as the Masterbuilt Jeff Beck kind of Stratocasters, I'd assume, just with that reverse headstock kind of thing, but one of Jeff's actual guitars that he used before he passed away, which I think that's pretty cool. Just interesting to see John using different strats, but the only other strats we've seen him use besides, you know, the Monty and the Black One has been either the Corey Wong signature or a kind of Jeff Beck thing. So it's not like he's just picking up strats really for the sake of picking up a strat. It's if they're tied to a person, we're seeing him pick them up besides the Monty and Black One. So I don't know. Very out of left field. Very out of left field. Hey, thoughts on why the Black One came up for the solo tour? We heard so much of the bridge and Bridgman to pick up tones. Maybe he's looking to the Dead and Co. Quacky tone. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where John just feels like bringing out that guitar, maybe going a bit more to his old school tone. Because there definitely was a change from like the Hi-Fi Silver Sky thing to the Black One. There 100% was a change in terms of the tones we were hearing on the solo tour when the Black One came out. I don't know. It's one of those really weird things where it's like for the trio performances, he was rehearsing with the Black One and then he never ended up using it, which was a huge miss for me in terms of those trio performances. It was kind of like, all right, well, it's not quite what I was hoping for, unfortunately, but then he did for the solo tour. So I don't know. I think he's just kind of got it with him. And if he feels like playing it and it's the guitars maybe with the original neck, it's not fighting him as much, maybe then he'll play it. But I think maybe too, just going for a bit of a slight different tone in his mind, but for the solo tour being mostly the Silver Sky, it kind of seems out of left field for him just to even bring a strat out at that point, just for one song for one night. But I guess for Gravity, it makes sense for him to play the Black One. Hey Gabe, how's the 335 treating you? It was super exciting when we saw that. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Gabe's video on his new vintage Gibson 335, go check that out. It's pretty wild, the new guitar that he's been after for quite a long time. So it was super exciting to see you get that, brother. Yeah, I'll for sure do one for the Sphere. I just kind of want to wait until we get all the information and kind of know everything. Like I've seen 0 shots of his pedal board at all. So I kind of like to be able to holistically be like, all right, here's everything we know what's going on, and probably just do it after the Sphere shows are done. And who knows if that will actually be the last Dead and Company show or not, but I'll do one eventually for sure. But just kind of wait until we get a little bit more, maybe see other guitars come out or something. I don't know, but yeah, be interesting. Do you think his next album will be more acoustic driven, or is it going back to the electric stuff? It's really hard to say. Like going off the solo tour, I feel like he would be very like acoustically inspired right now. I feel like that might be where his kind of heads at, back to his like more singer songwriter roots potentially. Um, I mean, I personally hope it's not, because acoustic's not fully my thing, even though I loved the solo tour. I hope it's kind of a mix. Anything that kind of goes back to a little bit more of John's kind of roots, I think we'd all enjoy. Even something like Born and Raised, where it's got some electric stuff on it, but very acoustic, heavy. I could get into for sure. Just something a bit more back to John's roots would be nice. From Mike, do you think Dead and Company are playing the tunes influenced by the video? Seems the tempos are off. Do you mean like the video from the actual Sphere, like what's going on in the whole background kind of thing? They've kind of catered it to that. Maybe I'm not sure if that's what you're asking or not. As far as the tempos, if Gabe's still in the chat, he can probably answer that one more, if like the tempos are different than what we've seen. But from what little Dead and Company I've actually watched, yes, okay, I see what you're saying. From what little Dead and Company I've watched from a lot of different tours, it seems like their tempos do vary, or even from like the start when they're maybe a bit rusty, then going to later on in the tour, you feel like maybe they're not as rushing as much, or they're slowing down. I've seen some things where I've watched it and it's been like, okay, like they seem to be adjusting their tempos, or some tours maybe are a little slower than others. So I don't know actually, because Dead and Company's never really been my thing, to be honest. I only really care about it because John is in the band, as bad as that is to say. So I haven't really watched a lot of stuff from the Sphere, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, I'd assume they'd custom make obviously everything for the show. I feel like they would have to stick to whatever tempo I'm not sure exactly how the Sphere shows work, like how much like customization or like on the fly whoever's working the screen can do. I'd assume it's probably pretty set in stone in terms of how the actual performance goes. Let's keep saying, because they've done Help Slip Franklin's with Wall of Sound visual. Well, that song wasn't around during Wall of Sound. Okay, yeah, so maybe they just have like a set like kind of thing going on. In my mind, it'd almost make more sense if they had like a set kind of way they go about it, and then if the visuals are like really that tight in. But again, I've never seen or haven't watched a lot of footage from the Sphere, so I don't know exactly how they go. If it's just kind of, we're gonna play like this wall, and then it's just kind of there, and just when the song ends, we'll switch the visual. It could be just as something as simple as that, and they can kind of go for however they want, because I feel like that's more of a Dead and Company thing. If they had it to a T, where your transitions, everything has to be right on point, maybe that'd lose some of the magic and like what Dead and Company is, because it's so improvisation heavy and just kind of chill. Because I went to Justin Timberlake about a month ago, and like the visuals for like that show and the transitions between songs, it's to like the second for the entire thing, and the set list is never going to change. It's going to be the exact same show every single night. It's cool, but it's a totally different experience, of probably angle that something like Dead and Company would be trying to go for, where to kind of limit them to the tempo of the videos and everything. Maybe that's just not quite the spirit of it, but I don't know. Hey, cheers, Dan. Appreciate you joining. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. The Sphere seems like a weird venue to me. Like, I go to watch the people perform and enjoy the music. I personally, for Dead and Company, I wouldn't be a show that I really think of that would work for the Sphere. I think U2 would have kind of worked a bit more, but I don't know. I can see the visuals for sure, like taking you out of the music in the moment. Where it'd be kind of good if you've seen Dead and Company at least once before, then experience it in a different version. That would be really cool. But for your first Dead and Company show, you might not get the full experience just because of the venue and where you're at. If that makes sense. Missed the 2019 tour tones. Was it some of John's best tones? Also, I don't know if it's just me, but John's tones of late has been my favorite. Really missing the two rocks in the mix and strats. I think it's just very like the solo tour tone definitely wasn't my favorite either. 2019 I think is kind of underrated in the tonal discussion. I think it kind of deserves to be up there with Born and Raised, Paradise Valley, 2013, 2014, and then the Continuum eras. it was higher gain, which I really liked. But the tones for the 2019 tour were wild. You're still getting a healthy mix of strats and silver skies, although near the back half of the tour, it was mostly silver skies. You were still getting some strats for certain songs, at least, like your slow dancings or gravity. You were getting strat tones, at least on all of those, pretty consistently. So yeah, 2019, I think for sure is my favorite modern Maritone within like the past 10 years, for sure. Really like Trio, Continuum, Born and Raised, Paradise Valley tour, then 2019. And then everything else has been good. Like John has never had a bad tone, but it's just, scale of great to greater, I guess. Yeah, I think the next big tour we should see maybe something different. Like I think him dropping the J mod in terms of the amp break was a cool move. So maybe him just kind of diving a bit more into his original sound a little bit more. Thanks for joining the live stream. Appreciate you. Customs, the layer from building a John Mayer pedal bar. Thanks for the inspiration. Of course, that's what I'm here for. I just like to help try and give you guys the right information and, help you guys have fun with guitar, because that's what it's all about. It's what it's all about. From Chris, hey Justin, have you played the Cornish Fuzz? If so, did you dig it? Go Rangers. Oh man, okay, yes. I have owned a Pete Cornish NG2. I owned it for a while. I really liked it. It does a very specific thing. It actually does I guess I just feel like kind of psychedelic super fuzz sound. If you play it, kind of play with your tone knob a little bit, play with your fingers, it does that. Friend who you guys I'm sure all know, Jake Loosemore, he was the first one who got really, really close with that pedal and actually trying to approximate it. I really liked it. I wasn't playing it a lot, so I did move on from it. It's a pedal I'd like to get again, to be honest, and order another one, especially, you never know with Pete Cornish, she's getting up there. I'm sure the company will continue, but I'd like to kind of get one made by him before something unfortunately happens. So yeah, I'll probably get another one. I downsized the pedal collection quite extremely, and now I slowly want to acquire again and build up the collection, curate it a little bit more and go about it a little bit maybe smarter and less just like things coming in and out like crazy in terms of what I'm getting, and just, keep things instead of just constantly swapping things out. So I'll probably get one eventually, I'd say. From Gabriel, do we know if JHS is going to start making the Boxa later available to purchase? In the video that I did on it, I mentioned that Josh had talked about it. There was a live stream that Josh Scott had did to that someone had commented, they had asked him, and he mentioned that he was very tempted because of all those John Mayer fans who were kind of pestering him to make it. He said it was an interesting circuit. He really liked it and thinks it's a cool pedal, and that he was very tempted to make it. So if everyone keeps asking for it, I'm sure he would. It's probably one of those things I'd assume maybe he needs to get like John's permission to make it or final approval on it. That's the comment that I remember seeing. I think it was on Instagram. I just couldn't find the thread or the comment that it was in response to. But I remember Josh kind of talking about something about John and getting approval. So I think there's a decent chance. I feel like for a lot of people, though, it'd be kind of like, well, how would you use it? I think it's got a lot of things you can do, but would it make sense for people to actually go and buy because it is such a niche thing? So maybe we'll see one. But as of right now, Josh hasn't said no. So that's, as good as we can kind of ask for at the moment. From Kyle Page, thoughts on the twin reverb with Dead and Company? I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of talked about it at the very beginning of this stream. I think it's cool that John's using a different Fender amp instead of just the solo rig. At first, I thought it was a vibreverb when I just saw it at like a straight glance. I was like, oh, okay, so exact same essentially as the solo tour, but something a bit more, I guess they're more high power. I'm not really familiar with twins, to be honest, and how they go. They're not an amplifier I've done a ton of digging on, never played one. I think it's cool, just going for something different, but still getting that black face Fender sound mixed in with the Dumble. Big question is what he's running for a cabinet and speakers, because the amps on stage are completely silent. Everything's running through external cabinets. It's just kind of for show, what at least is physically on stage. So could be running it through like the 2-rock cabinet, kind of like we saw with Vibreverb near the very end of the solo tour. But I think it's cool. Just something different that he's using. Change it up, right, too. Because if he keeps using the same rig over and over again, it's got to get boring for him. Yeah, so Mike, I kind of touched on that, I guess, in what I was just talking about. No idea because he's not even running the cab on stage. You can tell it, you can see isn't mic'd up. And then someone in one of the podcasts, I was going to make a video on it actually. There's a podcast that came out recently, I think, with one of the members of Dead and Company, who mentioned everything on stage is silent except for the drum kit, which is the really hard thing to do about the Sphere, is that you're completely, killing all the noise, but then the only thing you have on stage is actually the drums that are live. So all of John's amps are running through other speakers. So we might never know unless some cheeky backstage shot comes out. We'll probably never know, unfortunately. Do you know what kind of neck profile Mayer has on that silver 594? Wondering if it's a little thinner than the base model since it's chunkier. That I don't know. I just assume it's a standard 594 as far as I am aware. I just modified with this pickups, but it's possible. Gabe's still in the chat, so I'm not sure if Gabe knows on the 594 or not. If there's any details, but I personally don't know. I'd assume it's just the same as a standard 594, to be honest. Yeah. Funny thing with the box it later is that John's setup was perfect without it already, but everyone wants it now only because John has it. Exactly. That's why Josh is tempted. That's why Josh was like, I'm tempted for all your Mayer fans, because the moment you see something John's using, you guys all want it. I'm very guilty of that, as we all are. So yeah, it's something he never needed, but it's just cool. I'd be more interested in almost like a rack unit. It's kind of like a dumbwaiter sort of thing instead of a pedal format, but yeah, it's cool. Justin said, how will people use it? We only have the hypothesis on how John. Yeah, we don't even know. I've never seen any footage of him stepping on it. I have no idea what he's using it for. If in fact, like a lot of people have suggested, maybe the looper is in it, in the like the loop pedal, the Boss RC500 is in the loop of the box later. I don't know how John could be using it. There's so many different ways. So it's kind of like, if you can find utility in the different functions it has and you can create cool sounds with it, then that's sweet. Go knock yourself out. But if you're trying to use it and approximate how John's using it, it's probably not going to work out that well, to be honest. You're probably better off focusing on other areas. And then, if your rig's 99% of where you want it to be, then maybe, okay, focus on like how you can dial in a box it later to get that 1% closer. But I'd say like on the totem pole of like, if you are going for the Mayer thing, this is like rock bottom in terms of like things you should be worried about. But like, if Josh makes it, I'm going to buy it. There's no question about it. I will buy it. But it's not like that important. Are you going to keep making videos of the stories behind John's guitars? They were really cool. Yeah, I definitely want to. Honey was one that I had on the list to make. Those videos just take a very long time. Like the Black One video, that was like an hour and 20 minutes long for the YouTube version of it. I cut it down from like an hour 45 was the original cut of it. And then I had, I think, 4 hours of me talking and making takes that I had to edit down to that hour 20, whatever it ended up being at the final thing. And then making sure all of the details were right, all of the research. I had a lot of friends. Like I didn't make it purely by myself. Like Tommy was huge in helping to make that happen. But those videos just take a very long time. And life has been kind of crazy right now where I don't have a lot of time to make like a 30-minute video. Quick content, if I can get it out there just to, kind of chat about things quickly, maybe a little bit more chiller, a little bit less like scripted as well, is kind of what I'm aiming for at this point in time. But eventually, yeah, Honey, I'd love to do. I don't know what other ones we could do. Like the 64, I could try to do one on, and just kind of, or no, I already did one on the 64, I think. But yeah, but Honey is the next one I think that would be on the list, because you can kind of, in the podcast we did with some of the guys, you can see the clear transition of it being built a little bit, and like the progress of like the guitar, which is kind of cool. What do you think? There's so much PRS dislike from Los Angeles Limited. I don't think Mayer's tone has gotten any worse since he started using the Silver Sky, and the rest of his rig has changed more than the guitars. I don't think it's gotten worse. I think there's just like, it could be just us seeing with our, or hearing with our eyes. To me, it just sounds a little bit more hi-fi, and it's a little bit more like consistent, maybe. When, like the gold leaf Strat, when you came out for Vultures, that did have a very distinct tone when he'd play that guitar for that song. Where the Silver Sky actually does a very good job of approximating that tone. But there's those little variations with each guitar, and I think it's almost just like the fact that John is being so particular maybe about each guitar, where it's like it's special to see the Gold Leaf come out, special to see the Monterey come out for some Hendrix stuff. It's special to see I don't know, just different guitarists come out, because that's kind of, they all have their little different characteristics. I'll agree with you that the amp changes, everything else have way more of an impact on his sound than the guitarists do. But I think maybe it's just because, I don't know, I think a lot of people hate PRS for the wrong reasons too. I just am old school and I prefer a Strat in John's hands because those are the eras that I prefer. Overall, but I do have a lot of tones of John's that I think are absolutely incredible, and some of his best tones ever, with the Silver Sky in his hand too. But it's just what you prefer over the other. But you'll have the typical PRS hater who's like, oh, like they just ripped off Fender, but they never had problem when Yamaha, or not Yamaha, when Ibanez, they make a Strat kind of style, right? Sir, all these other companies make Strat guitars, but the moment PRS does, people have an issue. That's just the way it goes. From Emmanuel Casas, favorite solo from one of John's touring guitarists from a show. Michael Chave's solo from Something's Missing from Any Given Thursday is mine. Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I've seen Isaiah Sharkey do some crazy solos in some live footage I've watched. I'd have to think of the specific one off the top of my head. But Isaiah Sharkey's done some really wild ones during the 2019 World Tour that I thought were really great. Like some of his takes on the I Guess I Just Feel Like solos, where he would kind of do what John wrote, but add a little bit of his own thing. Things like that. I think Isaiah absolutely kills it. He's fantastic. Favorite John Mayer show. Also, I think you should make a video on radio story of John's guitar, but you don't add in all the less important details like the nickel plate, Gold Leaf John's. Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like doing those, if I can kind of, condense them and just shorten what information can I know. I think the nickel-plated one was one I had kind of scripted. Pretty sure it was one I had actually scripted, kind of ready to go. Not ready to go, but like I was intending on working on. My notes page on my phone is literally all just YouTube ideas and information stored, just in case I ever need a quick reference. Yeah, the nickel-plated one I did. I had a little note section going on just like links and images and stuff and some details. So yeah, I can do ones on like the less important ones and just kind of condense what we know. That'd be kind of cool. What do you think about the theory that the box later is used to attenuate, lower the signal level after the first TS10 to keep the signal quieter going into the clone in the second TS10? I'm not sure on that one. That'd be interesting. He's trying to attenuate it, but I don't know. I don't think his tone with it, like, that sounded bad, or like when he's not had it on the board and he's used that same setup. Like, think of the trio performances, for example, where he had TS10, Klon, TS10. He stacked all three of them for the big solos. I mean, never say never, but I'm not sure. That seemed to be almost a lot of work to go into and do, when I just be like, turn the volume up on the TS10 down then, or adjust the Klon to like do it. It's going to be a roundabout way of getting a very similar result you can get with something else. Any second thoughts on the Dead Spec? Dead Spec Silver Sky is cool. It's not for me. Like I said, Dead and Company hasn't been my favorite part of John's career. I think it's cool, and just the fact that we saw such a different take on the Silver Sky come out was really sweet, because it just opens up the door a little bit more for John to start customizing the guitar even more and changing things apart from that original formula, where now we're talking about converting it essentially to a hardtail. We're talking about using different body wood in the guitar now, that string tree, just little things like that just start to change the guitar and it kind of opens up the door. So I think it's cool because of that. I have a few friends who own Dead Specs, and they say it's their favorite Silver Sky, and it's probably because it feels the most unique. And it doesn't just feel like a different take on a Strat. It's got a little bit more going on that makes it extra special. I personally wouldn't buy one because, like I said, I'm not a big Dead and Company guy. But if Dead and Company's your thing, that's for sure a guitar you'd want to have, I think. That'd be really sweet. Besides Clarity, what's a song you wish you performed more live? That's a good one. I'm going to come back to that. Let me think on that. Oh, talking about the box later, Gabe. Yeah, until John personally says how he's using it, all the info online is just theories. Gabe, I know we're just chilling, but if you wanted to hop on the stream, I could probably add you somehow to the stream if you want to hop on and chat with everyone for a bit. I have no idea how to do that, but I can try to try to get it going. Depending on where you are. I'm not sure if you're walking Elliot or not, or if you're just chilling in your studio or not, but yeah, I could always throw you on if you want to hop on, brother. What's the song? This is one of those cases where you got to pull up your phone. Figure out what's one song you guys wish John performed more live. So I'm sure everyone's got a lot of songs that mean more to them for different reasons, like Clarity and what that song kind of has meant to me over the years. I'm sure you guys probably have ones that, you know. Probably Assassin. Assassin would probably be a big one for me. I really love Heavier Things, though. I think it's so underrated. You know, like hearing Split Screen Sadness live was really, really great. Only Heart is really good too. Come Back to Bed. Maybe some of those older kind of bluesier, kind of, you know, as John's getting into the trio before Continuum. Hearing more of those live, like Come Back to Bed, Only Heart. Assassin. Those would probably be my three. Okay, we're going to try and get Gabe on here, guys. Let me see. Invite. Okay. Gabe, I'm going to text it to you off of my computer. Okay. I copied the link. We'll see if we can get Gabe in here or not to check. Because there's a lot of Dead and Company questions, and Gabe's kind of the Dead and Company guy. I'm just going to catch up here. I think the Silver Sky will be the guitar for John, or mostly the rest of his career, kind of like Clapton and his signature Fender. I think he'll eventually make another signature model. I feel like he's all in on the Silver Sky. I feel like that will be, you know, as long as he's a Strat kind of style guitar player, that would be the guitar he's using. Oh, I see Gabe. It's
it worked.
Okay, wait. Oh shit! I gotta grab headphones or something. I don't want there to be an echo. Guys,
I just muted the other one.
Okay, as long as it's because I'm using like an external mic here, as I assume you're using the one that's in front of you.
Yeah,
as long as it's not, like echoing for the people in the chat, like through. Let us know, you guys, if it's echoing, with like the loop. But hopefully, StreamYard's kind of like.
Yeah, I'm gonna minimize my screen so I can see the comments here.
Yeah, I can just bring them up too as they come up.
Okay.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, Justin. How are you?
I'm good. Gabe and I pretty much talk almost every day.
Yeah, we have a group of guys that we're always talking.
It's the first year I'm actually not going to see you in person, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're not coming to LA this year.
LA. No plans. First year since 2018. I won't come down at least once to Los Angeles. So,
so this box later stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? In the chat, we have a few people in the chat. If you're in the chat and you would actually buy it if Josh made it, let us know, because I'd be curious to see how many of you guys in here would buy it.
I don't know. I mean, Justin knows more than he can say right now about something. But I mean, it's a cool unit.
Oh, I know what you're referencing. It took me a moment there to. Yeah, it took me a moment to get what you were referencing there. Okay, yeah.
It's a cool unit, but like we said, all of it's hypothesis right now until he says something.
It just seems weird, even like on the solo tour for him to have it. It's almost like a piece of kit that he's gone from never needing to now it's almost on every board he's had.
Yeah.
He could just be screwing with us, and I'll just leave it on there. If I want it, I have it, but maybe he's never even using it.
Yeah, I mean, because the boxlator is essentially a dumbulator in a pedal form. You know, so that's like saying you going to a show and like a Dumble user doesn't have the best sound because they're not using a Dumbleator. Like you don't know that.
Yeah. But you guess with John, it's just like he knows, right? So maybe for him.
Yeah, I mean it could be adding some sparkle if it's a buffer or something like he said in that Tumblr post, you know, a line driver, buffer, interface, whatever.
Do you theorize that it would add sparkle, Gabe?
Yeah.
When it's in the chain?
Yeah.
Gonna say that exact phrase to me a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Last week.
Oh man.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I was watching the video on YouTube about the circuitry, and it's pretty interesting.
Oh, Ryan's video?
Yeah.
I haven't watched the whole thing.
It's a really good video because he breaks down, I guess, I think circuit-wise, he breaks it down because he knows what he's talking about circuit-wise, and then the hypothesis of how he could be using it.
I mean, yeah, I was like, I have zero knowledge of circuit.
Yeah.
So I think Ryan was the first one too who thought that you take the loop with like the external like cable. That's just a necessity, even if it's just looping into itself. You need that. I think he was who said that could be what it is.
Yeah.
Like there's always something in the loop, but you don't. From what you can tell, even where you can follow the chain, it's like, is he looping like half the board in there then? Because you can see clearly pedals going one to the other.
Or if it's just like the wet effects, so they integrate with the overdrives properly. But
yeah,
we won't know until
anyone says anything.
Yeah, and I'm surprised in that in the guitar magazine, they didn't what's his name? Jeremy didn't go in depth saying, "Oh, we have this unit that, you know, integrates the wet with the dry effects, so we're not using effects loops probably."
Yeah, that magazine was really great, but definitely I felt like they could have like gotten a little bit more out of Jeremy, even when they were like unsure, like the signal chain's like, he's right there, clearly answering questions from you. Just ask him what the signal chain is.
Yeah.
Unless like they were not allowed to put like that in there for whatever reason, you never know.
Yeah.
But at that point, if they're letting John, like they're giving them that access to John's rig, you think everything would be off the table.
Yeah.
On the table.
Here, Davey says, I'd buy a box later as long as it wasn't $300 or $400.
Yeah, people in the chat are saying they'd probably buy it, and I think most Mayor fans would because it is kind of the closest to a signature piece of gear. It's the most unorthodox piece of signature gear.
Yeah, it's the least sexy.
This would be what he would do.
No, it's the least sexy.
Oh,
it's
for sure.
It's like saying, okay, I don't have anything that's like least sexy, but it's like saying, oh, I want to buy the John Mayer cable, the signature cable. I mean, people do. I mean, we've all had the Analysis Plus cable, but it's kind of like the least sexy piece of gear.
I can pretty much guarantee you I would never use it. It would just sit in a drawer.
Yeah, but as the collector part of you and friends that we know will have it. I totally get it. Is he going to make a pedal for us? No, hope it'd be affordable. I mean, I don't think that's his choice if it's affordable or not.
I think it depends on how much actually goes into the circuitry.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
But knowing them, they wouldn't put a tax on it because it's got remotely associated with Mayer.
No.
I mean, Josh would not do that.
No. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be considered besides just you know, you want to make it affordable. I mean, cool, but you know, we have to pay for a lot of things besides that.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like if there's certain things with the circuitry, if all the R&D, like he's had to put into it, is like a big pain in the ass. You never tell them. Like maybe then we'd see, you know, it could be expensive, but it's not going to be like absurd. I don't think it's absurd.
No, I mean you can find essentially similar units, like a clanulator.
That's one Chariotone makes, right?
Yeah.
That's even more straight Dumbleator in pedal format, though, right? So, I'm more asking because I don't know fully.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's essentially the same thing, kind of. I would think, but it has this recovery switch, which I don't know what you would use it for. if you were using it, as like an effects loop interface, I think essentially how you would go about it is you would plug in, I guess, what you're running into, like your wet effects, into the loop, and then go in and out of the loop to make sure that, or in a perfect world, the tone isn't changing.
Yeah.
From guitar into front of the amp, and then with the effects loop added. What are your guesses? 150? But no. I mean, for the box later, I don't think so. If it comes out, which to me, I don't think it will come out.
I would bet it wouldn't. I'd bet more on it never coming out than it.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, here a Klein later is I think like 250 around.
I assume for a JHS version made in USA, not like cherry tone stuff, I'd assume probably closer to 3.
Yeah, I would think like 250, 275 maybe.
Yeah. I'd say more than 150 for sure. I wouldn't say like $400.
No.
My brain, the conversions from United States to Canadian dollars in my head, but I could see it being closer to like 250, 3-ish, around that.
Yeah, I do think if that was me making it, I would go into it kind of with this mindset that, a lot of people really don't need it, so I'm not going to make a lot. Yeah,
but then as Mason at Midnight just mentioned, there's a double-edged sort of them not making a lot of them where then it's like they would the scalpers would just go nuts.
Yeah,
that thing.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if it's like if it doesn't make sense to make it a full production run where they can keep it in stock and do like big runs of it. At that point, because they just know that would happen with it, and I know John would be very against that. So maybe, and like even Josh, like what did he say in his like one promo video for the last like the taco Super Bowl thing they did?
Oh,
like I'll hunt you down if you like resell this pedal.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the only way you would, I think, advertise that product is if you were to make a video, I guess, detailing what it should be doing and what it can do, and then going through all the setups, running it through the effects loop as an interface, running it in line as like a line driver, and then running it in line with the pedal, whether it's reverb or overdrive in the loop into the front of the amp.
Yeah. And I think almost at that point, would you think John would come on and do the demo of the pedal? Because then he'd be like, hey, here's all the different ways I use it and why we even made this product. I think that would you'd think that would be something they'd consider at least doing. It's like, why does it even exist?
Because again, like if we point our head somewhere else, the Two Rock Eli is the same thing.
Yeah.
But they market it as, because people would run reverbs or delays into the traditional clean, it would be very dark. So that interface, you could make sure all the levels are the same and then brighten it up. So again, your tone is the same with it in the loop as it is out of the loop. Same with the dumbulators. And now we have John running on his pedal board, which is like, I don't think how originally this product was made for. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like most stuff John does, you don't quite see the full picture, I guess, or why.
No.
Maybe it's just something he's just experimenting with for a while and just seeing, maybe this is going to give me something different, change it up, or something he's maybe thought he's been missing this whole time. I don't know.
I mean, like,
because he's always had dumbulators in the racks, right?
I think so. Yeah. But you'd also see in the racks, you'd see, I think, some actual pedals there that would probably be feeding it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know. I mean, as much as I guess as a whole, we kind of know a lot. We only know a fraction of what I guess they're willing to show us. We don't know a lot of the rack stuff. I mean, we know what could be in there, but we don't know how stuff is being used. Someone asked what speaker is in his amp. That's like asking what pilot light is in his Dumble. We don't know, and we never will unless
you get that one cheeky.
Unless you get that one shot.
Yeah.
that shows the back of the speaker, or we get somebody doing a video from walking on the back of the stage, and it says, "Oh, there's John's rig. You know, it looks cool, sounds great," and then
unless you hear from someone that they have who would have that insider knowledge. That's it's very rare where like the vibroverb behind me, you can see the JBL in it
clearly.
But that's a very unique thing where with that specific amp, there's that visual cue. But that's literally the only one where then when it's gone, you could be like, okay, something's changed. The JBL, because he's either removed it or he's a speaker that you can't see now.
And a kind of a big one, I think. Well, for me personally, a big one, maybe for you too, was when we got this Guitar Magazine, we got settings of pedals and settings of amps, which before would have been like, oh, how is he running these? Especially the Dumble with the 2-Rock, which is kind of the same thing but different flavor.
Yeah.
So,
and then there was in the magazine too, I think it was, they even mentioned that there was possibility of amp switching as well.
Was there?
Yeah. Where like Jeremy mentioned, depending on the night.
Oh, yes.
One or the other.
Yeah, and depending on the night, bass on or bass off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
That
little tidbit, but it's does it really matter for one if he's going to just play the changing solo looped on piano and that's all the electric you get? That's where I didn't even make a video on it, so it's kind of well, it's kind of irrelevant
for me. It's
ever knowing.
Yeah, and for me, it's well, if the only song that he's using it for essentially in the US was changing, why does he need 2 massive amps?
Because he can.
I know, because he can. And when he goes to Japan in a small room, why does he need 2 massive amps? Why not have a smaller version of that same setup to be in that room?
Just the vibroverb.
Or just the vibroverb.
He just ran it through the JBL and said, screw it. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Someone says, favorite single coil pickups. Justin knows more about this than I do, I think.
Not really. I still haven't changed the single coil pickups of my Strat yet.
Okay, then we're on the same boat here.
And it's been a year. It's been almost a year this upcoming month that or end of June, beginning of July.
June,
when I got it last year.
And then Flickering Madness. Sorry?
I still haven't changed those pickups. I've been lazy. It's more just doing everything else to fit the sound I want instead of changing the pickups to then,
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, Alex, I don't really know. I want Ron Alice 64s in my Strat. I just have not really been wanting to spend $1,100 on
they're a lot
at the moment. Gabe, you and I were talking a bit ago about the Joe Bonamassa. Which ones were those?
Oh, yeah.
The 63s, I think they were.
Oh, yeah, the Cradle Rock 64,
or maybe those. Yeah, he's got a couple, obviously.
Yeah,
but there's a few ones that looked like they were would be. I assume from Seymour Duncan would be pretty good and a lot more affordable. But I don't want to be. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to swap things in and out constantly. I'd rather just buy the one I think will be the best and then just be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get to these questions, Justin. Someone said they asked a question higher up, which I saw.
I'm looking at buying a vintage 2 Strat 54. Ever played one?
Oh, vintage 2. Wondering how it compares to a Silver Sky. I don't think it would compare, personally, because if a vintage 2 Strat 54, whereas Silver Sky is more like a 60s style Strat.
Yeah, I'm just Googling it.
Yeah, I don't think
is that the 70th anniversary one. I think it is. That's what's coming up for me. Yeah, I'd say it would be pretty different. Assuming you're doing maple to maple, but probably pretty different because it's like you said, Gabe. The Silver Sky is all based around a 64 or a 63, 64, 65,
and then also depends if it's which one. Maybe the finish could be different or something like that.
Yeah,
this was a good one. Yeah,
you're gonna have to get because of price. Looked at Victory V100 2-Rock styled amp. Looked at various Fenders, Vibra King Super Reverb. Also considered saving for a 2-Rock. Gabe, what do you think?
I think it just depends what your goal is. I mean, if you're looking at a 2-rock style amp, why not get a 2-rock?
I mean, that's kind of my thing. It depends
Yeah.
on your rig right now and what you need. Like,
Yeah.
Worst case, if you wanted to save up for a 2-rock, what you could do is buy like a used something, a smaller Victory or a smaller Fender, sell it once you get your 2-rock in, and you might lose like $100 off the amp, but the money's still kind of there, and you'll get it back eventually. I would just save for it. Well, I'd just save for a 2-rock is what I'd personally do. I know you have like Cherrytone's another offering. I've personally never been that impressed by their amps, though. I will say, I've never played one, but in clips I've heard, I've never thought they were like that close.
Is the Victory V100? Which one is that? The Duke?
No, that's the that's like their ultra clean kind of American platform. Like Chris Buck used one for a while.
Okay.
That would be really. Before I got the Vibroverbs and dove into that thing, I was looking at like the lower wattage Victory just for like a smaller kind of portable thing.
So looking at prices, here comes like I don't know, the frugal person of me, but the more long-term use and more not just the mayor thing. For the price of the V100, and you said looking at Vibro Kings and Super Reverb, you can get most likely at that price point a vintage Blackface Pro Reverb 212. Which to me, that would be way better long-term and versatility-wise. Has no bright cap, so it's going to be smoother. I mean, it has the bright switch, but no bright cap, so it'll be smoother. You know, depends the condition. You may spend a couple $100 on a tech. Depends how far you want to go after that. Maybe a couple $100 more, change the speakers. But that's an amp that you would probably be also to get out of as fast as you got it.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to go higher, then you can get a 2-rock. And then just the 2-rock, you know, just again, just my opinion, you would be very like conscientious of like your environment. What are your goals with the amp? And that could dictate if you do, you know, 1x12 combo, 100 or 50 watts, or the lower ones.
I think too, the thing you got to be careful with is you don't want to pigeonhole yourself too much. Almost like the traditional clean, I'm very limited with what sounds I can get out of that amplifier. It's incredible what it does for the mayor thing, but if I had gone something more like a TS1 or a Bloomfield or something, you have that much more options to kind of cover more ground out of one amplifier. So I think if you're only going to have one, I'd maybe go to look at, if you're doing 2-rock, at least go to something that's got a bit more versatile. Even like a Fender, you can kind of drive it a bit more, and they just take everything a little bit better. So
yeah, I mean,
with 2-rocks, I'd consider.
I use my deluxe reverb every single day, much more than my overdrive special.
Yeah,
because that's the sound that, you know, it's much more accessible. But that was a good question, Jay. Because I think a lot of people are in that same boat. And I guess if we're comparing it to like the Mayer world, remember, John Mayer's tone is just a clean tone.
Yeah.
It's all it is.
Clean Fender. You're there.
Yeah. It's a specific clean tone, but it's a clean tone. It's like saying, you know, you can make burgers at home, but you go to a steakhouse and you get a better burger, you know, because it's different quality. Same burger, but just that's all it is. It's meat in between two buns.
It's more for like going down from the Fender to the 2-rock thing. It's more a feel thing.
Yeah.
And being in the room and how the amp responds.
Exactly.
Versus like, wow, this is like different because, like I said, it's clean. It's
and you could probably
characteristics and everything of each amplifier, but it's like it's not gonna like change your life. And like point in case, I almost think my Vibroverb is a better amplifier than my 2-rock.
I think the same thing with my deluxe.
It's just like, but you like what you like.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever gets you playing the guitar most. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. Let's look at the chat. By the way, guys, if you have any direct questions for Gabe too, hit him up while he's in here. He's our Dead and Company expert.
Someone says, if Mary played Covered in Rainwater, that would be sick. Such a quality SRV style solo.
Yeah. That'd be sweet. He played it a couple times 2019 tour, I want to say.
He played in Los Angeles at the Forum 2019.
The one tour I'll always be kicking myself for missing out on.
Dude, we were flying back from Florida as it was happening, and then we land, and I see he played Continuum top to bottom. It's like, oh my god,
yeah,
we weren't there.
Brutal.
We weren't there.
That's a tour I'll always regret not going to. I was just an idiot, and I thought he was going to release more dates, and then he never did. Like, oh, cool. I guess it's done. Because he toured all throughout Canada, the 2017 tour.
He did.
So I just assumed, I was like, all right, well, it's been 2 years, like not even. He's probably going to just tour throughout Canada again. Like, what's changed? It's like not like he's gotten like massively bigger, or the cost of like COVID hadn't hit yet, so it's not like the cost of had like changed. So I just assumed, oh, maybe he'll announce another North American leg and then add more Canadian dates in. And 6, he only did Toronto, never even did Vancouver.
No,
and no new dates showed up at all for North America in general. And I was like, well, all right, guess I lied.
Those Scotiabank always has a good show.
It does, but it's just like, I always hate when artists, that's just the Canadian.
Yeah, because you're far from there.
More to us than Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
No. But not Vancouver's always a good time. I love that city.
Flicking Madness says found a sleeper amp, Orange Rocker 32. Stereo effects loop and stereo cab. Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, I pulled it up here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can get really great clean tones out of everything.
Yeah.
One video that changed my almost my perspective on what Marshall amps were good for was Mick from TPS did a demo of the Silver Jubilee reissue. And that was when I had my Silver Jubilee and I was buying, and I was kind of hesitant on buying that because I was like, do I really need, like, I want more of a clean thing that can do the Mara thing, but I want the more Silver Jubilee thing too with like the lead channel. And his blues kind of tone with the Strat clean was super good. Dry, needs reverb, but that amp even sounds incredible just with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a Marshall is very unrealistic in my apartment, but I would love a Marshall, especially after Joe Bonamassa's video that he posted yesterday with those.
Oh yeah, with
the Marshalls.
Yeah, the 50-watt like plexi and the
like wow,
ATM or whatever it was.
That was so good. That was a great amp.
I still miss my high-powered Tweed Twin. That thing was absurd.
That was too loud.
There's one that's for sale in Vancouver that I've been like low-key like watching on Reverb.
Really?
Really early serial number version of one. And I was like, if I ever was in the position to buy another one, I might, just because that thing was so cool. And it was like the Tweed thing is very...
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
You found it?
It is 4,300 on 4,300 for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about, in Canadian, it's about what I sold mine for. So, boy logic, it'd be a wash. I just bought one again, paid the same thing. I'm like, whatever. But
yeah, I mean,
there's other amps I'd want more, but it's just like, speaking of Jobo, that's an amp that I kind of like, part of me wishes I had.
Yeah, there are a couple here.
Yeah.
There's one in Indianapolis for $39.50. That's local pickup.
They just were cool. So loud though.
Yeah, almost too loud. There's a point.
It needs to be on like 3, like, you know, like those vintage Fender thing where like sometimes you need to get them up to like 2.5, 3 to get it. But that thing at that volume was painfully loud.
Yeah, there's the volume thing. As we all understand that volume, you know, helps get the guitar tone that you want because you have to move air. But there is a point where it's too loud.
Oh yeah.
Just because you can have the environment where you can put an amp up doesn't mean you have to. Because there was a point where it just starts to compress and it's not as open. But the Bonamassa one is like, if you want what he had on tour, that sound, well, you need to crank it up.
Oh yeah, you need to have it like painfully loud.
Yeah, which is way too much for anybody essentially.
I think the part of me too that started making me miss it more was because Chris Buck played through Joe's rig, and then he got a clone of a high-powered Tweed Twin.
Yeah, he did
for a while. That's when I was like, shit, that was a pretty cool amp. You know?
Yeah, I
need that little kick to make me really think about it.
I mean, they rarely come up on Reverb. I'm checking now, but I still really want one of these. Yeah, there's not on sale Reverb. One of these Bonamassa Celestion speakers.
Oh,
Even though they're just essentially classically the 80s, which I have one right there. Right there. But it's a cool piece of, I really like Joe Bonamassa. So it's cool, like a little piece of kit.
Yeah, I think those were the same ones I had in the Twin.
Yeah. They came in the Twin exclusively, and then at that same time, apparently they were for sale on his website.
You could also get them too, just straight. I think I remember seeing them on there.
I had one saved for a while, and then it sold for like I think like 180, something like that. Not too sure, but I mean, I don't know what I would have put it in, but
yeah, it was nice to have.
Yeah, I'm seeing now. I think they also come in the dual professional one. Yeah, they're like JB.
That was 35 watt. That was such a weird amp when I saw he announced. Is that still what they're producing right now for
I think so. Yeah,
it's like never seen him using a dual professional before. Releases a signature dual professional. Is that what it was? Or yeah, pretty sure it was.
Yeah, dual professional. Just 26 watts with two. I'm assuming they're like greenback.
I never got that. Why he would?
I mean,
geez, it's expensive too.
4,000.
Oh, it's Canadian. I thought that was USD. I was like, oh my.
Yeah, you have two here. You have 3,500.
Yeah, okay.
3,500, and then 4. That includes 2 tickets, meet and greet.
I thought that was the price in USD because I just didn't assume his site would have the conversion from Canadian like automatically. So I was like, $5,700. I was like,
that's insane. For $5,700, you could buy an amp and cab from some certain brands.
Yeah, I still got my meet and greet for JB from that amp. I gotta take up at some point. I forgot actually.
We have the vintage guitar show coming up in 2 weeks, so maybe he's there.
That'd be cool.
If he's not on tour, I don't think he is. Hi, the Panda. What's going on?
Yeah, it was in the chat, and I was like, well, you may as well just come on and hang out.
Yeah, today was a slow day over here. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, that was like me too. I sporadically kind of had a little bit of time to kill, and I was like, I'm not doing anything.
Just I was playing guitar also, so
and some practicing.
Yeah, we'll have to go in a bit to take like for a walk, but by another hour. If you want to stay on?
Yeah, I'll probably be pretty quick here. If anyone in the chat has any questions for Gabe and I before we kind of look to close her out, I wanted to try and have a hard time line on like about the hour mark. So
here's someone says, any idea if Mayer places Flint in stereo?
I don't think I've ever seen it in stereo. Usually because it's one of the last pedals on like that back row of the board. The most common shot you'll get a pedal released from like the crowd, like front row facing the floor. So you'll see the knobs and the Flints. I don't think I've ever seen it.
No. What's so funny is I think someone asked me this last week when I did my Q&As on Instagram. It's like stereo or like wet dry or mono. Reality is stereo and wet dry live is like extremely unpractical. It's like it's especially stereo, especially you don't have the sound man that's doing it or whatever. It's completely impractical. But in this case, if it's a Flint in stereo, I would consider that more like dual mono because it's coming out of both speakers anyways. It's not like a ping pong delay where it's just going back and forth between amps.
Yeah, that'd be Unless with the trem, kind of.
I think the trem would go the same. Well, pulse, I think the same through both.
Right.
I don't know.
So when one amp's getting quieter, one amp's getting louder at different times.
Yeah.
It would just be
like out of phase madness.
Yeah.
But I don't think he ever used stuff in stereo.
No, I mean never seen never, but we got pretty good memories. I don't think I've ever seen stereo once.
No, the only thing I'm thinking that could be stereo / like dual mono was maybe like Bradshaw rig era. Like
yeah, well there he had the flexibility. Though
yeah.
That rig was so complicated. At that point, it's kind of like, well, do you want to add it? Sure, we're going all out. May as well just have the option.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
For them to like wire in a tap tempo to the physical board for the Echoplex, it's like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, also when he did like wet dry, 2013, 2014, that was really only just reverb.
As far as I know, it was only reverb. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like saying, Justin runs his Vibroverb with his 2-rock dry. That's kind of wet dry.
Yeah.
But once you start putting reverb in the front of the amp or delay, then it goes to both amps.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of weird running the still or no reverb, still getting all the rest of the wet effects, and then but
I mean, it could also be because maybe at the higher volumes, he had send and return on that amp.
Yeah.
Maybe higher volumes would make everything react differently. I mean, that's how just the louder you put your amp, the more reverb is perceived at lower volumes or at lower settings. The Flint in stereo, I swear it's two slightly different speaker.
I mean, it could be with how each amplifier is taking that reverb.
Yeah.
Maybe it's.
I mean, it could be. I mean, we're not trying it right now, but yeah, Dustin said it could be just how it's affecting it.
But wouldn't it just do the same thing either? I have no idea how stereo reverb would work.
Yeah, I think you would just get the reverb on both sides. The same.
But it's the same thing as just plugging it in and then splitting your signal after the fact anyway.
Yeah.
Reverb hitting the preamp.
Yeah.
And everything else. It could just be a different way of doing it too, but I think Strymon just as a general kind of rule makes everything stereo just to keep it so that they're not like giving like something you would use in stereo like a chorus or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have a Flint last, but oh no, now you can't take one of our pedals that you're using for stereo and plug it into one of the pedals at the end of the chain.
Yeah, because I mean, also a lot of people I think depend also like in the praise and worship scene use sometimes reverb into delay.
Yeah.
So if you're running your signal chain, you want delay out, you'd have to run stereo out into left and right delay, and then go from there.
Yeah.
But Flint and stereo for John, I mean, it could be. I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever like sounds best with your rig.
Yeah.
But for John's, definitely, I'd say you don't need it. It's just kind of like as long as you have a nice like reverb going on, you're fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of things. I don't know. A lot of things in John's rig we don't need, but we have that consideration. It's like 3 different systems or 3 different amps. So
working together.
Yeah.
So it's like with me, my Vibroverb's a lot more trebly, 2-rock's a lot darker.
Yeah.
Gets you to that even point. But then the moment I try and use just one of them, it's like, ooh.
Yeah. My ODS is super, super strong, super buff. The deluxe reverb is like thin and how do you say it? Thin and toned. Like it's defined, but it's not, there's no body to it.
Yeah. You're not getting the fullness.
Yeah, which you can if you want that sound, but I think it's just, again, scenarios and what your ideal guitar tone is.
So you're still loving the 335, obviously.
Well, yeah, I don't have it right now.
From like the last time we talked about it, like probably like 2 days ago or something.
Yeah, it's with my tech Ryan, fixing some stuff. I think I told you that it had like the pickups were not microphonic, how do you call it, were like not grounded properly. So if you took your hand off the guitar or just held the strings, you would hear touch the pickup, goes away. And then one of the previous owners, I categorized it as had two owners. The original owner, the previous owner who was Trent, who bought it when the original owner passed away, I think. Or she bought it from the original owner, and then the dealer who bought it when Trent passed away from the widow. Somewhere in there, specifically probably these two. I don't think Nate, the dealer, did anything with it.
Yeah.
They refilled the stop tailpiece holes. Not with full wood, but like wood shavings. A very DIY job.
Yeah.
So my guitar tech is going to be removing those. Or if he has to...
You're just getting the Bigsby removed, right?
Yeah. Just remove the Bigsby and put the stop tail.
But he's got to like replace the holes for the, anyways, with like the wood chipping and stuff, I assume.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, because I can pull it up. You know, I sent him photos also of what the inside should look like. For example, let me do this. For example, you know, where you can sort of see bushings or threads. So essentially that part on mine was filled up with like wood shavings, very DIY job. So I think in a
as it often is when you buy a vintage instrument.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, he would just drill through that and open it up nicely
and get back to access to the threads and everything.
Yeah, I sent him a ton of photos.
He'll be able to figure it out. I'm excited for you to have it back and see what it looks like without the Bigsby.
Yeah, I think I was talking to somebody recently that I think it'll sound or feel better because the Bigsby is making the string longer, so it's adding a bit more tension. But it's a dream guitar. I don't miss the Super Eagle one bit.
That's when you know you made the right choice, is the fact that I remember when whoever had asked you in our group chat, and they're like, and you're like, oh no, I haven't even thought about it once. We're like, all right, well, you know you made the right call because you haven't even thought about that guitar once.
Yeah, and
because even to so many people on YouTube, that guitar and you were like so synonymous.
Yeah, and the guitar is still for sale at Ish. You know,
it needs the right buyer.
It needs the right buyer. I was telling my dad about it. You know, I think he caught on late to all that happened. And so one day he's like, "You sold the Super Eagle?" I go, "What?" He goes, "What happened?" I go, "You know, I thought it was a favorite guitar." I go, "Yeah, it was, but it was only meant for one type of thing, and this guitar is much more versatile."
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I said to him, like I told you guys, that it only would happen if it was guitar for a guitar. I wasn't going to go out of pocket, and thankfully it all worked out that way. But I told him, you know, long run, the 335 is better. I can go to the vintage show in 2 weeks and probably get my money back for the 335, if not maybe make a bit more. Whereas if it was a Super Eagle,
the Super Eagle, I feel like had kind of like a very like those kinds of guitars have a very steep price hike, and then they kind of level off.
Yeah, and it's
like right away you can't buy anymore. There's going to be a premium that kind of grows, but you only have a finite number of buyers for that guitar.
Exactly.
Where a vintage 335,
a lot of people want that.
You just call up Joe Bonamassa. I'm sure he needs a new good.
Yeah, who knows? I mean,
like there are people like that who just collect that stuff.
Yeah,
it's investment wise, it's a better bet too.
Yeah, and it took me a while to get out. It took me a while to sort of process it, but it worked out at the end. Hopefully to have it Ryan said 2 weeks. 2 weeks will be Wednesday, so in a couple of days, hopefully. But I'm also in no rush to get it back because I know it's.
You want it to be done right.
Yeah, if it takes 2, 10, like 20 days, whatever. But yeah, it's a dream guitar. May change the tuners at one point. Maybe. Yeah, that's something I would change.
Just away from, like the vintage style.
Sorry?
Just away from like the vintage ones that are on there, or
Yeah, the same ones that are on there. They're not inconsistent, but there is. I mean, you can tell, you can feel they're old. You know, when you turn, when like the low E string will go super loose and then tightens up, and the same like the D string, it's super loose when you're turning it, and then it just tightens up. Which he was like, you know, I can.
It's like my one Les Paul.
Yeah, he's like, you know, I can open it up.
They're like.
He was saying that you could. He was like, I could open it up and like re-grease them or whatever. I'm like, no, like let's keep it as it is. Yeah. Unless they break or crumble or something happens, then we'll go that route.
As long as you don't do the thing where like you see some people like choose one that's got a bigger like size of like whatever the the fit in the headstock, then you're talking about filling or drilling.
That's
straight plug and play, then whatever. You know, throw them back on. Big whoop. Maybe last question, Gabe. We can well. Klon JHS double barrel, best option for Mayor sound.
Looking up what the double barrel is.
I think it's Tube Screamer Blues Breaker in one. I'm not sure. Flickering Madness, can you switch the order? I assume so, where you can go one side into the other. Whether or not it's like a 4-jack thing or you just have like a dip switch that just will swap the order. But I always say Blues Breaker, Tube Screamer, Klon. Because then you're getting the Blues Breaker into Tube Screamer thing, which covers kind of continuum trio stuff. And then John also does the Tube Screamer to Klon more than he ever did the Klon into Tube Screamer, I feel like. And I personally always yes, you can switch Blues Breaker and Tube Screamer.
Yeah.
When I had my Klon, I almost couldn't ever do Klon into Tube Screamer because the Klon has so much headroom in it, and like just everything about that pedal I found just sounded better personally. That was just my personal opinion. Better when the Tube Screamer is pushing it. Whereas when you're trying to slam the front end of the Tube Screamer with the Klon, I find that it would just like kind of compress a bit more and just not getting as much out of it. So I'd say Blues Breaker, Tube Screamer, Klon.
Blues Breaker, Tube Screamer, Klon. I'd probably do the. I actually may do the same, or do Klon, Blues Breaker, TS. Only because, or I guess you could route them for, I guess, overdrive, least gain into medium into lead with the Tube Screamer.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there because you set the Klon with the least amount of gain.
Yeah.
And the Blues Breaker, then the Tube Screamer.
The Tube Screamer, but then at that point, for me, you wouldn't rely on gain stacking. So you'd have incremental, like, you essentially want those volumes pretty high on all those pedals, so you're not like compressing it. So if you do gain stack, there's a big volume jump as well. But for example, if you had the TS at the end with like volume at like 1 or 2 o'clock, drive at 11 o'clock, then you could maybe boost into that. On. At which point it may get very nasally because they're both mids on mids, but that's a different story. Or you just run them individually, or run them really however you want, and then put a clean boost after it to just raise the volume.
Give you the volume jump, yeah.
More than anything, that's what you would
depends on your goal, and especially with like your amp setup and everything too. Like that's why I sold my Silver Jubilee, the 20 watt I had, because I would hit that with anything, and the amp would it had nowhere more to go.
Yeah,
it just would shut down. So I think you got to play around with like what like kind of headroom you're working with in terms of stacking. And that's probably my favorite thing about the 2-Rock is the fact that that thing will just take more and more and more and more. And it's just, it's never going to like compress on me. It's just going to keep going with whatever gain I kind of throw at it, which I really like.
Yeah, the last thing you want is to have those 3 gain pedals, and then, you know, feel wise, it's just all one dimensional. You want to have these massive jumps that'll eliminate the compression.
No, exactly. So I don't think, like, as long as you have it set up with the clones kind of giving you a bit of a boost, a bit of OD on it, your tube screamer's giving you like, think about like the rhythm for even I'm Going Down, like the Rolling Stones Gary Clark Jr. performance. That rhythm was a tube screamer.
Yeah.
So if you're just thinking, as long as your tube screamer is kind of giving you that tone, then whether or not you're boosting it with something or after, as long as you're getting that volume jump and that bit more gain, I think you're kind of in that merit ballpark.
Yeah. And yeah, just it also depends like on what guitar you're using and what amp you're using. There's a lot that goes into this besides just having the pedals.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. The biggest change is going to be your amp, for sure. That's very quickly when I kind of went through a few amps in a short period of time. But yeah, I mean, I'd say give the Bluesbreaker After just a shot, and it could sound really good. So I was talking to you guys about when I redo my board, how I want to kind of run with the King of Tone and different pedals kind of in the 4-jack option to kind of get Bluesbreaker lead tones too. I think it would sound really good, but it's a conversation maybe for another day. I should probably get going.
Yeah, I'm gonna
get ready for the hockey game.
Oh, you are? Who's playing it?
Florida Rangers tonight.
Oh yeah,
it's just been really good hockey. This postseason is really good. Yeah, really, really good. Thanks for joining the live stream, Flickering Madness.
Thanks. Yeah, we're gonna go for the walk and watch soccer on our end. Watch Inter Miami and Messi, like you were talking before. Now, and then I go to see LAFC at 7:30.
Nice.
So
that'll be fun. Well, I'm sure we'll hear about the game and how it goes.
Yeah, we should do this more, Dustin.
I know, it'd be fun.
Yeah,
I want to do more live streams, and then I just kind of get caught up and don't.
Yeah.
No, this was fun having you on, Gabe.
Maybe we can get some other of the gang in here.
I love that. Can you imagine getting Jake on here? That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's some spicy British attitude to it.
Yeah, or maybe we can get the London guitarist on here.
A little like big, like green screen of just his guitars.
Yeah.
I know. Whenever I want to reference him, I always have to be careful to be like, I always just go,
yeah.
Just out of respect for him keeping it, even though I'm pretty sure a lot of people have figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, even now talking about the boxylator, whatever it's called, I'm like, oh my god, I can't say much about it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. Cool, Justin.
Gabe, thanks for hopping on, man. Appreciate the chat.
Thanks. I'm glad we did this. It was fun.
Yeah, we'll do it. Like I said, should do it more often. I always said after every live stream, I say I should do it more often. It's just fun.
Yeah, it's fun in general,
especially with you to kind of help steer the conversation, converse, get your opinions too.
I'm down, and then I don't know if I send you the link for the podcast, but yeah, the O'Teal one.
The amps on the stage.
Yeah.
I think you probably heard me reference that before. I know you sent it to me. I just forget.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah. On it. I'll probably make a video talking about that because
that sort of answers a good amount of questions on
just how the sphere works. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like he says, how he says, if we were to have our in-ears out, we'd hear a big delay in sound.
Yeah.
I'm that part I sent the video in, but yeah, that section he goes, if we were to not play in in-ears, we would be all over the place, sound-wise, acoustic wise.
So maybe that's why John's switching back to in-ears, not the headphones, because he really needs.
Yeah, he needs to be
super dialed in because maybe the headphones allows him to be a little bit more free.
Yeah, I'm sure the headphones also maybe with the volume on stage should it get some bleed. But
yeah, where they're not noise
oh,
canceling, like having something molded right for your ear.
Yeah, O'Teal said in that podcast that a couple of times the in-ears will fall out, and you could really tell it's not meant for no headphones or no in-ear monitors.
Yes, that's just the way the venue is, right?
Yeah.
But it's by design, but still cool.
Yeah. Apparently, people that I know went said it sounded amazing.
Yeah, as long as the result is good, then hey.
Yeah.
Okay, Gabe. Well, have fun tonight. The game.
All right, Justin. You too. Hopefully, someone wins good hockey.
Yeah, I'm personally cheering for Florida, but we'll see.
Amazing.
Okay, Gabe. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Justin, take care.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Bye, guys.
See you next live stream. See you guys later.